William Carter was a man of great ambition. Born into a middle-class family in a small Vermont town, he had always dreamed of becoming someone significant, someone who made a mark in the business world. With his piercing eyes and confident demeanor, William had built a successful career as a businessman, earning the respect and admiration of many in town. Yet, behind this facade of success, there was a growing dissatisfaction that only he knew. Sarah Carter, on the other hand, was the epitome of empathy and understanding. As a respected psychologist, Sarah spent her days helping her clients find balance and happiness, always with a warm smile and words of encouragement. Her heart was her greatest strength, and her love for William and their 3 children was evident in every gesture and decision. The family lived in a cozy house surrounded by old trees and vibrant flowers, a picture-perfect image of happiness and stability. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves began to change color, William sat at the kitchen table, watching Sarah as she prepared breakfast for the kids. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, and she hummed softly to herself, unaware of the storm brewing in his mind. The smell of coffee filled the air, mingling with the sounds of the children getting ready for school. William felt a pang of guilt as he observed the scene. This was his family, his life, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He longed for excitement, for something more than the predictable routine that had become his life. As Sarah turned to him with a cheerful, "Good morning, love," William forced a smile. "Morning," he replied, sipping his coffee. But even his greeting lacked the warmth it once had, and Sarah noticed the subtle change, a flicker of unease crossing her face. "Everything okay?" she asked, pausing as she set the kids' lunches on the counter. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind," he replied, trying to brush off her concern. But Sarah knew better. Her intuition told her that something was off, something more than the usual work stress he often mentioned. Later that day, as William drove to his office, he couldn't help but think about Vanessa, a young and vibrant woman he'd met at a recent business conference. She was everything Sarah wasn't: impulsive, daring, and full of life. He found himself drawn to her, intrigued by the promise of adventure she represented. At the office, as he sat through meetings and reviewed contracts, his thoughts kept drifting back to Vanessa. The way she laughed, the way she made him feel alive, like he was waking up from a long slumber. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, the atmosphere was tense. Sarah could sense the distance growing between them, a chasm that seemed to widen with each passing day. She watched William across the table, noticing the way he seemed preoccupied, lost in his thoughts. "Will, are you sure you're all right?" she asked again, her voice tinged with worry. He hesitated, looking at her for a long moment before nodding. "I'm fine, Sarah." "Really?" he insisted, though the words felt hollow even to him. After dinner, as the kids were tucked into bed, Sarah approached William in the living room. She sat beside him, reaching for his hand. "I'm here if you want to talk about whatever's bothering you," she offered gently. William squeezed her hand, grateful for her support, yet unable to share the turmoil inside him. "I know," he said softly, looking away. In the silence that followed, Sarah felt a growing sense of unease. She loved William deeply, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was pulling him away from her, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Meanwhile, William wrestled with his emotions, torn between the life he had and the life he thought he wanted. The promise of excitement and newness with Vanessa was alluring, but the thought of leaving his family filled him with dread. It was a path he wasn't sure he was ready to take. Yet the pull was undeniable. As the days passed, the tension in the Carter household became palpable. The once happy and harmonious home was now filled with unspoken words and lingering doubts. William found himself spending more time at work, avoiding the inevitable confrontation he knew was coming. And Sarah, with her keen intuition, began to prepare herself for the storm she sensed on the horizon, determined to hold her family together despite the growing cracks in their foundation. The stage was set for a dramatic turn of events as the lives of William and Sarah began to diverge, each on a path that would change everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. And as the story of their journey unfolded, it became clear that this was not just a tale of love and betrayal, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of heart-wrenching challenges. Great. Let's move on to topic 2, the desire for more and continue crafting the story. Here is the narrative for this section, keeping the tone conversational, emotional, and engaging. In the days following his growing disenchantment with life at home, William found himself yearning for something that he couldn't quite name. The familiar rhythms of his daily routine felt suffocating, as if the walls of his once beloved home were closing in on him. He couldn't deny the allure of the vibrant and carefree Vanessa, whose mere presence seemed to spark something inside him that had long been dormant. At his office in downtown Burlington, William sat behind his large mahogany desk, surrounded by the trappings of his success, awards and photographs of himself with powerful business associates. But even those achievements seemed hollow now. He often found himself staring out the window, watching the bustling city below, and wondering what he was missing. The yearning for more, for something beyond the confines of his predictable life, gnawed at him relentlessly. One afternoon, as he browsed through reports and emails, his phone buzzed with a message. It was Vanessa, asking if he was free for dinner. The message was simple, yet it sent a thrill through him that he couldn't ignore. Asterisk, hey, want to grab dinner tonight? I know a great spot downtown. Asterisk for a moment, he hesitated. Guilt washed over him as he thought of Sarah and the kids at home. But the desire for something different, something exciting, was too strong to resist. Sure, sounds good. What time? He typed back, his heart racing with anticipation. That evening, as he walked into the trendy restaurant where Vanessa had suggested they meet, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The place was buzzing with energy, filled with young professionals like Vanessa, eager to make their mark on the world. As soon as he spotted her, he knew he'd made the right decision, at least for the moment. Vanessa was sitting at the bar, her auburn hair cascading over her shoulders, wearing a sleek black dress that seemed to capture every eye in the room. She greeted him with a warm smile, and for a while, William forgot all about his troubles. "William, over here," she waved, her voice cutting through the chatter of the bar. "Hey," he replied, sliding onto the stool beside her. "This place is amazing." "I knew you'd like it," Vanessa said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "So, tell me, what's new in the world of William Carter?" The conversation flowed easily, and William found himself laughing more than he had in months. Vanessa's stories of her adventures and dreams were intoxicating, and he was captivated by her zest for life. She was everything he felt was missing in his own life. Spontaneous, adventurous, and unconcerned with the mundane details that seemed to weigh him down. As they chatted over dinner, William couldn't help but compare Vanessa to Sarah. While Sarah was grounded and reliable, Vanessa was a whirlwind of energy, constantly on the move and full of dreams that seemed almost too big for reality. It was refreshing, like a breath of fresh air in his otherwise stagnant existence. "You know, I've been thinking about expanding my business," William said, his mind buzzing with possibilities, taking some risks, trying something new. Vanessa leaned in closer, her interest piqued. "Really? That's exciting. What kind of risks are we talking about?" "Not sure yet, but I'm tired of playing it safe," he admitted, sipping his drink. "I want to feel alive again, you know?" Vanessa nodded, her gaze steady on his. "I get it. Sometimes you just have to leap and hope for the best." Her words struck a chord with William, echoing his own internal conflict. He had always been cautious, measured in his decisions, but now he craved the thrill of the unknown, the chance to break free from the constraints of his current life. As the night wore on, William realized that his desire for more wasn't just about Vanessa. It was about everything she represented. The promise of a life less ordinary, one filled with adventure and excitement, was incredibly alluring. But beneath that allure was an unsettling realization. He was willing to risk everything he held dear for a taste of something new. Returning home late that night, William found the house dark and silent. He paused at the door of the kids' room, listening to their steady breathing as they slept, unaware of the storm brewing in their father's heart. As he slipped into bed beside Sarah, who was already asleep, he felt a pang of guilt mixed with determination. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that he couldn't go on living as he had been. The desire for more had taken root, and there was no turning back. In the coming days, William's restlessness only grew. He spent more time at work, avoiding the suffocating confines of home and diving headfirst into new projects. But as he pushed further away from the life he had built, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to fall. The stage was set for a seismic shift in William's world, as the choices he faced threatened to unravel everything he thought he knew about himself and the life he had always taken for granted. Sarah sensed the shift in William long before he found the courage to voice it. The little things that once brought them closer together now seemed to drift them apart. Quiet dinners where laughter was replaced by silence. Mornings where he left for work with barely a word. Sarah, with her keen intuition and nurturing nature, could feel the distance growing like an invisible wall between them. Yet, she held on, hoping that whatever storm he was weathering would pass. One Saturday afternoon, as the autumn leaves fell like whispers on the crisp Vermont breeze, the tension that had been simmering beneath the surface finally boiled over. William and Sarah were in the living room, the kids playing noisily in the backyard, their laughter filtering through the open window. Sarah sat on the couch, trying to read a book, while William paced the room, his thoughts a tangled mess. "William, please," Sarah implored, lowering her book. "Talk to me. What's going on? You've been so distant lately." William stopped pacing, his back to her. He took a deep breath, knowing that what he was about to say would change everything. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah," he said finally, his voice low and strained. Sarah's heart skipped a beat, her mind racing to comprehend his words. "What do you mean you can't do this?" "Can't do what?" "This us," he said, turning to face her. "I feel trapped, stuck in this monotonous routine. I need more out of life, and I just don't think I can find it here with you." The words hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating in their finality. Sarah felt as if the ground beneath her had shifted, leaving her unsteady and reeling. "William, we have a family," she pleaded, her voice shaking with emotion. "We've built a life together. You can't just throw it away." William's gaze softened momentarily, but his resolve was unyielding. "Sarah, you're an amazing woman and a wonderful mother, but you're predictable. I need adventure, excitement, something that makes me feel alive again." The words sliced through Sarah like a knife, each one sharper than the last. "Predictable?" she repeated, her voice a mix of disbelief and pain. "You think I'm predictable?" "Old and mediocre," William muttered, almost to himself. The instant the words left his mouth, he regretted them, but the damage was done. Sarah recoiled as if she'd been slapped, tears welling up in her eyes. The room seemed to close in on her, the walls echoing with his hurtful declaration. She rose from the couch, her legs trembling beneath her. "After everything we've been through, you say that to me?" she asked, her voice a whisper of disbelief. William's expression was a tumult of guilt and frustration, but he stood by his decision. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I have to be true to myself." She nodded, though the gesture felt hollow. "I see. And being true to yourself means abandoning your family?" "I'm not abandoning anyone," he insisted, though he knew how empty the words sounded. "I just need some time to figure things out." Sarah took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. "And what about us, William? What about the kids? You think they won't notice their father walking out?" The mention of their children brought a flicker of doubt to William's eyes, but he quickly masked it with determination. "I'll still be there for them. This is between you and me." Sarah turned away, unable to look at him any longer. Her heart ached with a pain she had never known, a deep, raw wound that seemed to grow with each passing second. She had always been the strong one, the one who held the family together, but now she felt like she was unraveling. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the house was heavy with unspoken words and unresolved tension. William spent more nights away, often claiming he was working late, though Sarah knew better. She could see the signs, the scent of a different perfume on his clothes, the way he avoided her gaze, the half-hearted excuses that only served to deepen the rift between them. Sarah threw herself into her work, trying to find solace in helping others navigate their own struggles. But even her practice, once a source of joy and fulfillment, felt tainted by her personal turmoil. She put on a brave face for her clients, offering them the guidance and support she could no longer find in her own life. At night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah would sit alone in the darkened living room, the silence pressing in around her like a weight. She replayed William's words over and over in her mind, each repetition cutting deeper than the last. Old and mediocre, words that haunted her, taunting her with their cruelty. Despite the pain, a flicker of determination began to grow within her. She had always been strong, resilient, able to weather any storm. And though this was a storm unlike any she had faced before, she was determined not to let it break her. As she sat in the quiet of her home, Sarah realized that she had a choice. She could let William's betrayal define her, or she could rise above it, proving to herself and to him that she was anything but mediocre. It was time to reclaim her life, to find the strength within her to forge a new path forward. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but Sarah was ready to face them head-on, with or without William by her side. In the weeks following their heartbreaking conversation, the air in the Carter household was heavy with tension and unresolved emotions. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, had become a place of unspoken words and lingering sadness. Sarah tried to keep things as normal as possible for the kids, but they could sense the change, the underlying current of uncertainty that ran through their daily lives. William, meanwhile, had begun spending more time away from home, seeking solace in the company of Vanessa. She was a whirlwind of excitement and unpredictability, everything he thought he needed to reignite his passion for life. Yet, even as he was drawn to her vivacious spirit, a part of him remained tethered to the life he was slowly unraveling. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, William returned home to find Sarah sitting on the porch. Her face was set with a quiet determination, a strength that seemed to shine even in her sadness. He hesitated at the foot of the steps, a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. "Sarah, can we talk?" he asked, his voice tentative, unsure of how to bridge the growing chasm between them. She nodded, gesturing for him to join her. "We need to figure out what happens next, William. We can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not." He sat beside her, the wood of the porch creaking under his weight. The familiarity of the moment, their quiet evenings together, the shared silence, made the reality of their situation even more poignant. "I know," he admitted, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I've been thinking a lot about what I want, what I need." "And?" Sarah prompted, her heart pounding in her chest, both hopeful and terrified of what he might say. "I think it's best if I move out for a while," William said finally, each word feeling like a betrayal of everything they had built together. "I need time to clear my head, to figure things out without dragging you and the kids through this." The admission hung in the air between them, a painful acknowledgement of the distance that had grown insurmountable. Sarah fought back tears, willing herself to remain composed. She had known this moment was coming, but the finality of his decision still struck her like a physical blow. "I see," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "And what about the kids, William? How do we explain this to them?" "I'll still be there for them, as much as I can," he promised, though the words felt hollow even to him. "This isn't about them, it's about us." Sarah nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of how to shield their children from the pain that was about to unfold. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to make him see what he was doing to their family. But she knew it would do no good. William had made up his mind. "When are you leaving?" she asked quietly, bracing herself for the answer. "By the end of the week," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I've already found a place downtown." The finality of his words echoed in the stillness of the evening, a confirmation that their lives were about to change irreparably. Sarah nodded again, her heart aching with a grief she couldn't fully express. "I guess that's it, then," she said softly, standing up and wrapping her arms around herself as if to hold her world together. "Sarah, I'm sorry," William said, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away, the hurt too raw to allow for any comfort. I need some time, too, William, she said, her voice firm despite the tears that threatened to spill over. Time to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on. As he watched her walk back into the house, William felt the weight of his decision settle over him like a heavy cloak. The life they had shared, the dreams they had built together, now lay shattered around him. He wanted to believe that this was the right choice, that the promise of a new beginning with Vanessa would be worth the cost. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was making the biggest mistake of his life. The week passed in a blur of preparations and unspoken goodbyes. William packed his belongings with a sense of detachment, avoiding Sarah's eyes as they moved through the house, ghosts of the life they once had. The children sensed the shift, their innocent questions breaking Sarah's heart each time they asked when Daddy would be home. Finally, the day of his departure arrived. William stood in the doorway, his suitcase by his side, the weight of his choices pressing heavily on his shoulders. The kids were at school, sparing him the heartbreak of having to explain his absence in terms they could understand. Sarah stood across from him, her expression a mixture of sadness and resignation. "I hope you find what you're looking for, William," she said, her voice laced with both anger and sorrow. "Take care of yourself, Sarah," he replied, struggling to find the right words to encapsulate everything he felt. She nodded, the tears finally spilling over as she watched him walk away. The door closed with a finality that echoed through the empty house, leaving Sarah alone in the silence. As William drove away, his mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The freedom he had longed for was finally within reach, yet the cost of that freedom weighed heavily on him. He had chosen a path that promised excitement and adventure, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had lost something precious along the way. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and the unknown. And as William left behind the life he had known, he was haunted by the realization that he was embarking on a journey from which there might be no return. The silence in the Carter household was deafening after William left. The once lively home, filled with the laughter and chatter of children, now seemed eerily quiet. Sarah stood in the living room, looking around at the echoes of a life that had been abruptly altered. Despite the pain that lingered in every corner, she knew she had to keep moving forward, for her children, if not for herself. The morning after William's departure, Sarah woke up early, the weight of the previous day still heavy on her shoulders. She moved through the house with a quiet determination, preparing breakfast and getting the kids ready for school. Her heart ached with every question they asked about their father's absence, but she answered them as best as she could, focusing on reassuring them that they were loved and safe. As she drove the kids to school, she glanced in the rearview mirror, catching sight of their worried faces. Emily, the eldest, seemed to sense the change more acutely than the others. Her blue eyes, so much like William's, were clouded with confusion. "Mom, is Daddy coming back soon?" Emily asked, her voice small and uncertain. Sarah forced a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Daddy loves you very much, Emily. He just needs some time to figure things out. But I promise, everything will be okay." The words felt inadequate, but they were all she had. She watched as the kids filed out of the car and into the school building, their backpacks bouncing with each step. Her heart ached for the stability they had lost, for the sense of security she struggled to maintain. Back at home, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. She took a deep breath, letting the warmth seep into her, grounding her in the present. She knew she couldn't dwell on the past, couldn't allow herself to be consumed by the pain of William's betrayal. She had to be strong, not only for herself but for her children. They needed her to be their anchor in the storm. The community rallied around Sarah in the days that followed, offering support and kindness in ways she hadn't expected. Friends and neighbors stopped by with casseroles and comforting words, each gesture a reminder that she wasn't alone. She was grateful for their presence, their unwavering belief in her ability to overcome the challenges she faced. "Sarah, you're stronger than you know," her friend Lisa said one afternoon as they sat on the porch, sipping tea and watching the kids play in the yard. "You've always been the one holding everything together. You can do this." Sarah nodded, though doubt still lingered at the edges of her resolve. "I know, Lisa. It's hard. I never imagined this would be my life." Lisa reached over, squeezing Sarah's hand. "None of us do. But you have so much to offer, Sarah. You're an amazing mom, and you're an incredible psychologist. Don't let William's choices define you." Lisa's words resonated with Sarah, igniting a flicker of determination deep within her. She had spent years helping others find their strength, guiding them through their darkest moments. It was time to take her own advice, to apply the principles she preached to her own life. With renewed purpose, Sarah threw herself into her work, finding solace in the familiar routines of her practice. She began taking on new clients, immersing herself in their stories and struggles. Each success, each breakthrough, was a testament to her resilience, a reminder that she was capable of rebuilding her life. But it wasn't just her professional life that began to shift. Inspired by her own journey and the countless stories of strength she encountered in her clients, Sarah started to write. Late at night, after the kids were asleep, she would sit at her desk, pouring her heart into the pages of a book that had begun to take shape in her mind. The writing was cathartic, a way to process the emotions that swirled within her. She wrote about resilience and self-worth, about finding the strength to overcome even the most daunting challenges. Her story, once one of heartbreak and loss, began to transform into one of empowerment and hope. The book became a lifeline, a beacon of light in the darkness that threatened to overwhelm her. It was a project she could pour her soul into, a reminder that she was more than the pain she had endured. And as the words flowed from her pen, Sarah felt a sense of purpose that had eluded her for so long. One evening, as she sat at her desk, the kids' soft snores echoing through the quiet house, Sarah paused to reflect on how far she had come. The road had been long and fraught with heartache, but she had survived. She had found a way to navigate the storm, to keep moving forward even when the path seemed uncertain. In that moment, she realized that her story was far from over. The journey was just beginning, a journey that would lead her to places she had never imagined. And though the challenges ahead were daunting, Sarah was ready to face them with the same quiet resilience that had carried her through the darkest of times. As the last rays of sunlight filtered through the window, casting a warm glow over the room, Sarah picked up her pen once more, determined to finish what she had started. The words flowed easily now, a testament to her strength and the unwavering belief that she could create a future filled with possibility and promise. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah found herself on a path of self-discovery that she had never anticipated. The initial shock and pain of William's departure had given way to a newfound sense of purpose. She was determined to rebuild her life on her own terms, to rise above the challenges and emerge stronger than ever. Her days were a delicate balance of work, parenting, and writing. At her practice, she continued to help clients navigate their own struggles, drawing from her own experiences to offer insight and empathy. It was fulfilling work, and each success felt like a small victory against the adversity she faced. But it was in the quiet moments of solitude, when the house was still and the world seemed to hold its breath, that Sarah truly began to understand the depths of her resilience. She had always been strong for others, but now she was discovering what it meant to be strong for herself. Late at night, when the moon cast a silver glow over the neighborhood, Sarah would retreat to her small study. It was a cozy room, filled with books and mementos that reminded her of the life she was building anew. The desk was strewn with papers and notebooks, each filled with thoughts and ideas that had taken root in her mind. The book she was writing had become more than a project. It was a journey in itself, a way to channel her experiences and emotions into something tangible. Sarah wrote with a passion she hadn't felt in years, pouring her heart into every word, every sentence. She wrote about the challenges she had faced, the heartbreak and loss that had threatened to consume her. But she also wrote about the strength she had found within herself, the resilience that had carried her through the darkest days. It was a story of empowerment, of finding one's voice in a world that often tried to silence it. As the pages filled, Sarah began to see her own story reflected in the words she wrote. She saw a woman who had been pushed to the brink, who had faced adversity with grace and determination. And she saw a woman who had emerged stronger, ready to face whatever lay ahead. One evening, as she sat at her desk, lost in the world of her writing, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. It was from a well-known literary agent who had come across an excerpt of her book online. The agent was intrigued, impressed by Sarah's writing and the powerful message it conveyed. "Sarah, your story is incredibly moving," the agent said, her voice warm and encouraging. "I believe it has the potential to reach and inspire so many people. I'd love to discuss the possibility of publishing it." Sarah was stunned, her mind racing with disbelief and excitement. The idea that her words could resonate with others, that her journey could offer hope and inspiration, was both humbling and exhilarating. "I'd love to discuss it further," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "Thank you for reaching out." The call marked a turning point in Sarah's journey, a moment of validation that reinforced her belief in the power of her story. It was a reminder that she was not alone, that her experiences and insights had the potential to make a difference. Buoyed by the agent's interest, Sarah threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. The book took on a life of its own, evolving into a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. As she wrote, she found herself reflecting on the past and the lessons it had taught her. She thought of William and the choices he had made, the pain his departure had caused. There was still hurt and anger, but it was tempered by a newfound understanding. She realized that while his actions had set her on this path, it was her own strength and determination that had brought her this far. One afternoon, as she sat in her study, the phone rang again. This time, it was her publisher, calling to inform her that they wanted to schedule a book tour. Sarah's book was gaining traction, and there was a growing demand for her story. The news was both thrilling and daunting. The prospect of sharing her journey with the world, of standing before audiences and speaking her truth, was both exhilarating and terrifying. But Sarah knew it was an opportunity she couldn't pass up, a chance to reach others who might be facing similar struggles. As the book tour began, Sarah traveled across the country, speaking to packed rooms of people eager to hear her story. Her words resonated with audiences, offering hope and encouragement to those who needed it most. She met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories of resilience and triumph over adversity. The experience was transformative, a testament to the power of human connection and the strength that could be found in sharing one's truth. Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment, a knowing that she was exactly where she was meant to be. In the quiet moments between events, Sarah would reflect on her journey, the twists and turns that had brought her to this point. She realized that she had discovered not only her voice but her purpose. She was more than a survivor. She was a beacon of hope for those who felt lost in the darkness. The journey was far from over, but Sarah faced it with a newfound confidence and a sense of peace. She had rediscovered herself, had found a way to turn her pain into power, and she was determined to continue her journey with courage and grace. And as she stood on the precipice of a new chapter in her life, Sarah knew that she was ready for whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that she had the strength to overcome any obstacle and the resilience to thrive in the face of adversity. Topic 7. New Love. Old Illusions. William's life had taken on a new rhythm since he moved in with Vanessa. Her apartment in downtown Burlington was sleek and modern, a stark contrast to the home he had left behind. The city skyline stretched out before them, a constant reminder of the new world he had chosen, a world filled with possibility and adventure. Or so he thought. At first, life with Vanessa was everything William had imagined it would be. She was vibrant and full of life, always ready to take on the next challenge or embark on a spontaneous adventure. They spent their evenings exploring the city, dining at trendy restaurants, and attending exclusive parties. It was a whirlwind of excitement, a stark departure from the predictability he had felt in his previous life. But as the initial thrill began to fade, William found himself grappling with an unsettling realization. While Vanessa was undeniably captivating, there was something missing, a depth and sincerity that he had taken for granted with Sarah. Their conversations, once lively and engaging, now felt hollow and superficial. One evening, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights, William found himself lost in thought. Vanessa was scrolling through her phone, oblivious to the growing sense of emptiness that gnawed at him. "Hey, what's up with you tonight?" Vanessa asked, glancing up at him with a curious look. William hesitated, unsure how to articulate the feelings that had been building inside him. "I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about everything," he replied, his voice lacking its usual enthusiasm. "Everything like what?" she pressed, setting her phone down and giving him her full attention. "Like, what we're doing here." "What I'm doing here," he admitted, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Don't you ever feel like something's missing?" Vanessa laughed, a light, carefree sound that seemed to brush off his concerns. "You're overthinking it, Will. Life's supposed to be fun, you know? Just enjoy the ride." But that was precisely the problem. The ride, as exhilarating as it had been, felt increasingly empty. The connection he craved, the sense of belonging and purpose, eluded him. Vanessa was a breath of fresh air, but she wasn't the anchor he needed. The more time he spent with Vanessa, the more William began to see the cracks in the facade of their relationship. He noticed how her attention would shift to the people they mingled with, the way her gaze would linger on others who could offer her more. More excitement, more glamour, more than he could provide. It was a realization that stung, a harsh reminder of the superficiality that lay beneath the surface of their glamorous lifestyle. One afternoon, as they strolled through the bustling streets of Burlington, William tried to shake off the nagging doubts that plagued him. Vanessa was talking animatedly about a new art exhibit she wanted to see, her enthusiasm infectious. But even as he nodded along, William couldn't shake the feeling that he was living someone else's life, playing a part in a story that didn't belong to him. "William, are you even listening?" Vanessa teased, nudging him playfully. "Yeah, of course," he replied, forcing a smile. "You were talking about the art exhibit, right?" She grinned, taking his hand and pulling him toward a nearby cafe. "You're going to love it. Trust me." Inside the cafe, the air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the chatter of patrons mingling with the sound of clinking cups. They found a cozy corner table, and Vanessa launched into a detailed description of the upcoming exhibit, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But as William listened, his mind drifted back to the life he had left behind. The quiet evenings with Sarah, the laughter of his children echoing through their home. The realization hit him with a force he hadn't expected. Despite the allure of his new life, he missed the depth and authenticity of his past. As Vanessa continued to speak, William found himself voicing the doubts that had been simmering beneath the surface. "Vanessa, do you ever think about the future? Like, where we're headed?" She raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard by the question. "Of course, but I try not to dwell on it too much." "Why?" William hesitated, searching for the right words. "I guess I'm just trying to figure out if this is what I really want." Vanessa studied him for a moment, a hint of impatience in her expression. "William, life's too short to overthink everything. You wanted change, and you got it. Just go with the flow." The response, while typical of Vanessa's carefree nature, didn't sit well with William. The longing for something more, something real and lasting, gnawed at him, refusing to be silenced by the distractions of his current lifestyle. Over the following weeks, the cracks in their relationship widened, the illusion of their perfect life beginning to crumble. William found himself spending more time alone, lost in thought as he contemplated the choices he had made. The allure of Vanessa's world was fading, leaving behind a stark reality he couldn't ignore. He realized that in his pursuit of excitement and adventure, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. The love and connection he had once shared with Sarah, the family he had left behind, were worth more than the fleeting thrill of his new life. One evening, as he stood on the balcony watching the city lights flicker below, William knew he couldn't continue down this path. The illusion of happiness he had chased was nothing more than a mirage, a fleeting dream that had left him empty and longing for something real. The decision to leave Vanessa weighed heavily on him, but he knew it was necessary. He had to find a way back to himself, to the man he had been before he lost his way. It was time to confront the truth and face the consequences of his choices, to seek the redemption and connection he so desperately needed. As he turned away from the cityscape, William felt a sense of resolve he hadn't felt in months. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face it, determined to rebuild the life he had nearly lost. William's life took a dramatic turn when he made the decision to invest heavily in a new business venture. It was a risky move, one that promised significant returns, but carried the potential for devastating loss. Driven by the desire to secure his future and prove himself, William poured much of his remaining wealth into the endeavor, convinced it would solidify his place in the world he had chosen. At first, everything seemed to be going well. The investment was showing promising signs, and William felt a renewed sense of purpose. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. A series of unforeseen setbacks began to unravel the project, casting doubt on the stability of his investment. The once promising venture teetered on the brink of collapse, leaving William facing the harsh reality of financial ruin. As the situation worsened, Vanessa's demeanor began to change. Her enthusiasm waned, replaced by frustration and impatience. She was no longer the vibrant, carefree woman William had fallen for. Instead, she became distant, her focus shifting to other prospects. One evening, as they sat in the apartment, the weight of the situation hung heavily in the air. Vanessa paced the room, her frustration evident. "William, we need to talk about what's going on," she said, her voice sharp with urgency. William, who had been staring at financial reports for hours, sighed deeply. "I know, Vanessa. I'm doing everything I can to fix this." "Fix it?" she echoed incredulously. "Do you even have a plan? Because it seems like everything's falling apart." "I'm working on it," he replied, his voice tinged with desperation. "I just need a little more time." But Vanessa wasn't convinced. Her patience had worn thin, and the allure of William's world had faded. "I can't do this anymore, William," she said finally, her voice tinged with finality. "I need stability, not chaos." The words hit William like a cold wave, the final blow in a series of devastating events. "What are you saying?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I'm leaving," Vanessa declared, her gaze steady and unyielding. "I can't be with someone who's spiraling out of control." The truth was a harsh reality, and William couldn't find the words to protest. As she packed her belongings, he sat in silence, grappling with the consequences of his choices. Vanessa's departure marked the end of the life he had pursued so recklessly, leaving him alone and vulnerable. The collapse of his investment followed swiftly, leaving William with nothing but the remnants of his shattered dreams. Financially ruined and emotionally drained, he found himself at rock bottom, forced to confront the decisions that had led him to this point. With no choice but to face the truth, William began to see the illusions he had clung to for what they were: temporary escapes from the life he had left behind. The excitement and adventure he had sought were fleeting, and the price he had paid was far greater than he had anticipated. In the aftermath of his financial downfall, William was left with a stark realization. The life he had once dismissed as predictable was, in fact, the foundation he desperately needed. It was time to rebuild, to find a way back to the man he had been before he lost himself in a world of illusions. Determined to make amends, William decided to return to the small town he had abandoned, hoping to find redemption and perhaps a chance to repair the damage he had done. The journey would not be easy, but he was ready to face it, driven by the hope of finding forgiveness and a sense of belonging once more. Returning to the town he once called home, William was met with a mixture of nostalgia and trepidation. The familiar streets and faces reminded him of what he had lost, of the choices that had led him astray. It was a humbling experience, one that forced him to confront the reality of his actions and the impact they had on those he loved. William moved into a modest apartment on the outskirts of town, a far cry from the luxurious lifestyle he had pursued. It was a stark reminder of the consequences of his choices, a reminder of the life he had left behind in search of something more. As he settled into his new surroundings, William knew he had a long road ahead of him, one filled with uncertainty and the need for redemption. The town was abuzz with the news of his return, whispers and gossip circulating among the residents. William knew he couldn't hide from the scrutiny, couldn't avoid the judgment of those who had once respected him. He had to face them, to prove that he was not the man who had abandoned his family and lost himself in a world of illusions. One afternoon, as William walked through the town square, he ran into an old acquaintance, David, a friend from his early days in business. David greeted him with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. "William, I heard you were back. What brings you here?" William hesitated, unsure of how to explain his situation. "I needed to come home, David. I made some mistakes, and now I'm trying to put things right." David nodded, his expression a blend of understanding and skepticism. "It's good to see you, Will. Just remember, actions speak louder than words. People around here don't forget easily." The conversation left William with a sense of determination. He knew that words alone wouldn't be enough to rebuild his reputation and repair the relationships he had damaged. He had to prove himself through his actions, to show that he was committed to making amends. With this resolve, William began to volunteer at the local community center, offering his skills and experience to help those in need. It was a small step, but it was a start, a way to give back to the community he had once abandoned. The work was fulfilling, providing him with a sense of purpose and connection that he had long been missing. As he worked alongside volunteers and community members, William found himself reflecting on the lessons he had learned. He realized that true happiness and fulfillment came not from material success, but from the relationships and connections he had taken for granted. The people he encountered shared their own stories of resilience and perseverance, reminding him of the strength of the human spirit. But despite his efforts, William couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness that haunted him. He missed his family, missed the warmth and love he had once known. The absence of Sarah and the kids was a constant reminder of what he had lost, a reminder of the choices that had led him down this path. One evening, as he sat alone in his apartment, William picked up the phone and dialed Sarah's number. The line rang a few times before she answered, her voice cautious and distant. "Hello?" Sarah's voice echoed through the line, a familiar sound that tugged at William's heart. "Sarah, it's me," he said, his voice filled with a mix of hope and regret. "I know I have no right to ask, but I'd like to see the kids." There was a pause, a silence that seemed to stretch on forever. William held his breath, waiting for her response. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice firm but not unkind. "I'll think about it, William. But this isn't just about you. The kids have been through a lot, and I need to make sure they're ready to see you." William nodded, though she couldn't see him. "I understand, Sarah. I'm just trying to make things right." As the call ended, William felt a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. He knew he had a long way to go, but the possibility of reconnecting with his children gave him the strength to continue. It was a chance he couldn't afford to squander, a chance to prove that he was more than the mistakes he had made. The journey toward redemption would be difficult, but William was determined to face it with honesty and humility. He had learned the hard way that life was not about chasing illusions, but about finding meaning and connection in the things that truly mattered. And as he navigated this new chapter, he was ready to embrace the lessons he had learned, ready to rebuild the life he had once lost. While William worked on his path to redemption, Sarah was experiencing her own journey of empowerment and success. Her book, a testament to resilience and self-discovery, had become a national bestseller, catapulting her into the spotlight as a leading advocate for empowerment and personal growth. The world had taken notice of her story, drawn to her message of strength in the face of adversity. The success of the book opened doors Sarah had never imagined possible. Invitations to speak at conferences and events poured in, and she found herself traveling across the country, sharing her story with audiences eager to be inspired. Each event was an opportunity to connect with others who had faced similar struggles, to offer hope and encouragement to those who needed it most. One afternoon, as Sarah prepared to give a keynote speech at a large conference in New York City, she took a moment to reflect on how far she had come. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but she had persevered, finding strength in her own resilience and the support of those around her. Standing backstage, she could hear the buzz of anticipation from the audience, the murmurs of excitement that filled the air. It was a surreal moment, a testament to the power of her story and the impact it had had on so many lives. As she stepped onto the stage, the applause was deafening, a wave of support that washed over her. Sarah smiled, taking a deep breath before beginning her speech. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady and confident. "I'm honored to share my story with you, a story of resilience, hope, and the power of finding one's voice in the face of adversity. The room was silent as she spoke, the audience captivated by her words. She shared her journey with honesty and vulnerability, recounting the challenges she had faced and the lessons she had learned along the way. Her message was clear. No matter how difficult the circumstances, there was always a path to healing and empowerment. Throughout her speech, Sarah emphasized the importance of community and connection, the role they played in helping her overcome the obstacles in her life. She spoke of the friends and family who had stood by her side, offering support and encouragement when she needed it most. The impact of her words was palpable, a testament to the strength and resilience that lay within each person in the room. As she concluded her speech, the audience rose to their feet, a standing ovation that left Sarah feeling both humbled and inspired. After the event, Sarah mingled with attendees, engaging in conversations and listening to their stories. It was a powerful reminder of the shared experiences that connected them all, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As the conference came to a close, Sarah returned to her hotel room, reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The success she had achieved was more than just professional acclaim. It was a validation of her own strength and resilience, a testament to the power of her story. Despite the challenges she had faced, Sarah had emerged stronger, more empowered than ever before. She had found her voice, had discovered a sense of purpose that guided her through the darkest of times. And as she looked to the future, she knew that her journey was far from over. The triumph she had achieved was not just a personal victory. It was a testament to the power of resilience and the impact of sharing one's truth. Sarah was determined to continue her work, to use her platform to inspire others and create positive change in the world. As she prepared to return home, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey she had undertaken, for the lessons she had learned along the way. She knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and grace. In the quiet of her hotel room, Sarah picked up her phone, scrolling through messages of support and encouragement from friends and loved ones. Among them was a message from an unfamiliar number, a simple note of congratulations and admiration for her work. Intrigued, she opened the message, her heart skipping a beat as she read the words of praise. It was a reminder of the impact her story had made, a testament to the power of sharing one's truth. With a smile, Sarah replied, thanking the sender for their kind words and promising to continue her work with the same passion and dedication that had brought her this far. The journey of empowerment and triumph was far from over, and Sarah was ready to embrace it with open arms, determined to make a difference in the world and inspire others to do the same. As Sarah's life continued to flourish, William finally found the courage to reconnect with his family. It was a difficult decision, one fraught with uncertainty and the fear of rejection, but he knew it was a necessary step toward healing and redemption. With his heart in his throat, William reached out to Sarah, asking if he could visit the children. To his relief, Sarah agreed, recognizing that despite the pain of their past, the children deserved the chance to know their father. The day of the visit arrived, and William stood outside the familiar home, his heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and hope. The house, once his sanctuary, now felt foreign, a reminder of the life he had nearly lost. Taking a deep breath, William knocked on the door, his heart racing as he waited for a response. The door opened to reveal Sarah, her expression a mixture of apprehension and acceptance. "Hi, William," she said, stepping aside to let him in. "The kids are in the backyard. They're excited to see you." "Thank you, Sarah," William replied, grateful for the opportunity to reconnect with his children. "I know I have a lot to make up for." She nodded, her gaze steady. "Just be honest with them. That's all they need." As he stepped into the backyard, William was greeted by the sight of his children playing, their laughter ringing through the air like music. It was a moment he had longed for, a chance to rebuild the bonds he had nearly severed. "Daddy!" Emily shouted, spotting him first and running toward him with open arms. The sound of her voice filled William with an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. He knelt down, embracing her tightly, tears of joy and regret mingling as he held her close. "Hey, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I've missed you so much." Tommy and Lily, his younger children, soon joined them, their faces alight with excitement. "Daddy's here!" they exclaimed, their enthusiasm infectious. For the first time in months, William felt a sense of belonging, a connection to the family he had nearly lost. He spent the afternoon playing with the kids, savoring every moment and cherishing the laughter and joy that filled the air. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, William and Sarah sat together on the porch, watching the children play. It was a moment of peace, a respite from the turmoil of the past. "Thank you for letting me see them, Sarah," William said, his voice sincere. "I know I have a lot to make up for, but I'm determined to do whatever it takes." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I can see that, William, and I want you to be a part of their lives, but it's going to take time." "I understand," he replied, his gaze steady. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild their trust." As they sat in the fading light, William realized that the journey toward redemption was only just beginning. It would require patience, humility, and the commitment to rebuilding the relationships he had damaged. But he was ready to face the challenges ahead, driven by the hope of creating a better future for his family. The road to redemption was long and uncertain, but William knew he had taken the first step. With each day, he was determined to prove that he was more than the mistakes he had made, that he could be the father and partner his family deserved. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, William felt a sense of peace and hope for the first time in a long time. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face it with courage and determination, knowing that the love of his family was worth fighting for. The journey toward healing and redemption was fraught with challenges, but William was determined to face them head-on. He worked tirelessly to rebuild the trust he had lost, to prove that he was worthy of the love and respect of his family. As the days turned into weeks, William's efforts began to bear fruit. He spent time with his children, attending their school events and supporting them in their endeavors. He was present in their lives, offering guidance and encouragement as they navigated the challenges of growing up. Emily, Tommy, and Lily slowly began to trust him again, their initial hesitation giving way to a renewed sense of connection. The bonds that had been strained by his absence were gradually mending, strengthened by the love and commitment he demonstrated. But the journey was not without its setbacks. There were moments of doubt and frustration, times when William questioned whether he would ever truly earn the forgiveness of his family. The scars of the past were deep, and healing them required patience and perseverance. One evening, as William sat in his modest apartment, he received a call from Sarah. Her voice was calm, but there was an underlying tension that he couldn't ignore. "William, we need to talk," she said, her tone leaving no room for misunderstanding. "Can you come over tomorrow evening?" "Of course," William replied, his heart racing with anticipation. "I'll be there." The following evening, William arrived at Sarah's house, unsure of what to expect. He was greeted by the familiar sight of the home he had once shared with his family, a reminder of the life he was working to rebuild. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, the air heavy with unspoken words. Sarah invited him to sit down, her expression serious as she began to speak. "William, I appreciate everything you've been doing for the kids," she said, her gaze steady. "They need you in their lives, and I'm glad you're making an effort to be there for them." "I'm trying, Sarah," he replied earnestly. "I know I have a lot to make up for, but I'm committed to being the father they deserve." She nodded, her expression softening slightly. "I know you are, and I want to support that. But we also need to talk about us, about what this means for our relationship." William's heart sank at the reminder of the complexities they faced. He had hoped to rebuild the family they once had, but he knew it wouldn't be that simple. "I want to make things right, Sarah," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I want us to be a family again." Her expression was pained, a reflection of the emotions that swirled within her. "William, I care about you, and I want what's best for the kids. But we can't just pretend that everything is okay. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry," he said, his voice filled with regret. "I wish I could change the past, but all I can do is try to make things right from here on out." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging heavily between them. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice gentle but firm. "I need time, William. I need to figure out what's best for me and for the kids." William nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He had hoped for a swift reconciliation, but he knew that rebuilding their relationship would take time and patience. "I understand, Sarah. I'll do whatever it takes to support you and the kids." As they sat together, the reality of their situation settled over them. The journey ahead would be difficult, but they were committed to working through the challenges together. Despite the uncertainty, there was a glimmer of hope, a belief that they could find a way forward, even if it wasn't the path they had originally envisioned. The road to healing and redemption was long and winding, but William was determined to face it with courage and humility. He knew that the love and support of his family were worth fighting for, and he was ready to do whatever it took to create a better future for all of them. The journey toward redemption and healing was a long and arduous one, but through it all, William had learned invaluable lessons about love, forgiveness, and the power of resilience. He had faced the consequences of his choices, had confronted the pain of his past, and had emerged with a newfound understanding of what truly mattered. As he continued to rebuild his life, William focused on being present for his children, on nurturing the relationships that were most important to him. He attended their school events, celebrated their successes, and offered support and guidance as they navigated the challenges of growing up. The bonds that had been strained by his absence were slowly mending, strengthened by the love and commitment he demonstrated. Emily, Tommy, and Lily had begun to trust him again, their initial hesitation giving way to a renewed sense of connection. The love and laughter that filled their home were a testament to the strength of their family, a reminder of the resilience that lay within each of them. But William also recognized the importance of personal growth and self-reflection. He had learned that true happiness and fulfillment came not from material success, but from the relationships and connections he had taken for granted. The journey toward redemption had taught him the value of humility and the power of vulnerability, lessons that would guide him in the years to come. As he looked back on the choices that had led him down this path, William felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned. The pain and challenges he had faced had been difficult, but they had also been transformative, shaping him into the person he was meant to be. One evening, as he sat with Sarah on the porch, watching the children play in the yard, William reflected on the journey they had undertaken together. It had not been easy, but they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more united than ever before. "Thank you, Sarah," William said, his voice filled with sincerity. "Thank you for giving me the chance to be a part of their lives again." Sarah smiled, her gaze warm and understanding. "You've come a long way, William, and I'm proud of you for the changes you've made." Her words were a balm to his soul, a reminder of the progress he had made and the hope that lay ahead. The journey toward redemption was far from over, but he was ready to face it with courage and determination, knowing that the love of his family was worth fighting for. As they sat together, watching the sunset cast a golden glow over the yard, William felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. He had learned that life was not about chasing illusions, but about finding meaning and connection in the things that truly mattered. And as he embraced the lessons of his journey, he knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The road ahead was filled with promise and possibility, and William was ready to embrace it with open arms, determined to create a future filled with love, laughter, and hope. In the quiet of the evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, William felt a sense of gratitude for the journey he had undertaken. He had faced the challenges and emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. And as he looked to the future, he knew that the lessons he had learned would guide him, lighting the way toward a brighter tomorrow. If you enjoyed this exciting story, please subscribe, like, comment, and check out the next exciting story.